In a haze of intoxication, she admitted, "I was never drawn to you, and I can't help but pursue other men." Her words struck me with the force of a sudden blow. As she lost consciousness, I came to my conclusion. With the first light of dawn, I disappeared, leaving no traces, no farewells. I'm Phil, and I've always held the conviction that diligence can remedy just about any situation. That's simply the way I was brought up. You focus intently, put in the hard work, and soon enough, everything aligns perfectly. That perspective influenced my life significantly, particularly regarding my marriage. For as long as I can recall, my days have been a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and negotiations. I put in the effort, rising early and grinding throughout the day. By the time I arrived home, I felt utterly exhausted, barely able to muster the energy to wish my wife a good night. Yet, I reassured myself that every bit of it was worthwhile. I was crafting a future for us, ensuring she would never have to fret about anything. In moments away from my tasks, she occupied my every thought. Ways to bring her joy, ways to provide her with the life she truly deserves. Whenever I traveled for work, I would bring her thoughtful gifts. I would organize weekend escapes to compensate for the time that slipped away. It was far from flawless, yet I believed she grasped the essence of it. Love isn't defined by perfection. It's about being present and making an effort. That was my impression, at least. In retrospect, I understand that I may have misjudged the situation, though at the moment it wasn't clear to me. I believed that putting in more effort equated to deeper affection. Recently, however, there had been a sense of unease. She hardly seemed to notice my presence these days. Initially, I dismissed it. Our marriage had just reached the 2-year mark. I thought we were simply getting accustomed to the rhythm of our married life. Somewhere within, I sensed that all was not as it should be, yet I was reluctant to accept that truth. I reassured myself that she was merely experiencing stress, fatigue, or perhaps a temporary phase. I believed that by putting in extra effort and demonstrating my affection, things would return to the way they used to be. I believed wholeheartedly that love and dedication had the power to mend any situation. I realize now that I was mistaken, quite mistaken. Upon recognizing the growing tension between us, I resolved to take action. I envisioned a candlelit dinner to rekindle our connection. I might have been a bit naive, but I held on to the idea of giving it a shot. I dedicated the whole afternoon to preparation. I prepared her beloved dish, chicken parmesan accompanied by garlic mashed potatoes, a recipe I hadn't revisited since our initial date. I arranged the table with flickering candles, lowered the lights to create an intimate atmosphere, and curated a playlist of gentle, melodic tunes that once brought her joy. It was my way of expressing that I acknowledge your presence. I long for you, and I am making an effort. As she entered the room, a look of surprise crossed her face. "Wow!" she exclaimed, her gaze sweeping the room before settling on the table. For a moment, I believed I caught a glimpse of something. Perhaps gratitude? She pressed her lips to my cheek, took a seat, and offered a warm smile. As we began to eat, the dialogue unfolded effortlessly and with a delightful ease. She praised the meal, playfully suggested that I might be the superior chef, and for the first time in ages, her laughter rang true. In that instant, I believed there was a chance for us to reconnect, but after she had her third glass of wine, everything took a turn for the worse. She was inebriated. Initially, it was understated. She reclined in her chair, her demeanor softening, her speech flowing more slowly and freely. I hadn't given it much thought until she placed her glass down, met my gaze, and said, "You're a nice guy. You always check on me. That's why I'm here with you." I stood still. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I inquired, my tone unwavering, despite the turmoil in my gut. She chuckled gently, yet there was an undertone of sympathy. "Honestly, I've never felt any attraction towards you. Not like that." Her words struck me with the force of a freight train, yet she continued on. She leaned in, propping her chin on her hand as if sharing a relaxed tale. "You have a kind and tender nature, which makes me feel at ease, but unfortunately, you don't quite fit what I'm looking for." She began to articulate her preference, someone with a more rugged edge and a shadowy aura. Person unafraid to challenge conventions. Everything that contrasts with my essence. And then, as if the situation couldn't get any worse, she revealed the shocking truth. Upon encountering him, my ideal, I found myself utterly captivated. One thing led to another, and she fell silent, yet I didn't require her to elaborate. I understood her words clearly. I remained seated, nodding foolishly, while my wife unveiled truths that broke me apart. My chest felt weighed down, as if the air had been stolen from me, yet I maintained a serene expression. On the surface I appeared calm, yet within, a part of me broke. This was not an expression of regret. It was something else entirely. It felt like a tipsy attempt at rationalization, as though she sought to make me grasp her motives for the betrayal. In that instant, it dawned on me that raising my voice was unnecessary. I found no reason to engage in conflict. I simply had to allow her to complete her thoughts before determining my next steps. As I lay down to sleep that evening, a realization washed over me. There was no turning back now. Her words echoed in my mind. How I didn't fit her ideal, how she chose to be with me for my kindness, how she ultimately sought fulfillment in someone else. The sting went beyond mere betrayal. It was the nonchalant manner in which she confessed it. As I lay in the darkness, the gentle sound of her snores filled the air, and I found no trace of anger within me. Just clarity. Arguing with her wouldn't make a difference. She had revealed her true self to me, and I trusted her completely. Facing her would merely provide her with the opportunity to defend her actions. She was not worthy of such treatment. She was not worthy of conflict. She was not entitled to closure. She needed to understand the true essence of life in my absence. As dawn broke, I found clarity in my choice. I would not be present when she opened her eyes. I am not someone who acts on a whim. When I perform, I do so with meticulous attention to detail. That morning, I departed the house as I routinely did, with quiet intention, leaving no indication that anything was amiss. This time, I had no intention of returning. The initial call I placed was to my attorney. I instructed him to draft the divorce documents, ensuring that all necessary elements for my separation from her were included. Subsequently, I reached out to my accountant. He was astute, and within hours, he began selling off my shares in our shared investments. At the close of the day, my accounts were devoid of funds, yet I held complete authority over my possessions. Subsequently, I reached out to my family. I withheld some of the specifics. I chose to clarify one point, even though it wasn't necessary. Do not engage with her. Please keep my location private. If she reaches out, you reveal nothing. I aimed for her to truly grasp the gravity of her actions, with no one there to soften the blow. At last, I sent a message through my lawyer to ensure she received it when she inevitably sought to contact me. She will receive the divorce papers shortly. No explanations needed. No regrets. Only the stark, unyielding truth of what she had forfeited. A couple of weeks passed, and the documents were delivered. My lawyer informed me that she made several attempts to contact him, including calls, emails, and even visiting his office in person. I chose not to reply. She pleaded for clarity. What could I possibly express that she wasn't already aware of? Initially, she was reluctant to put her signature on the documents. She lingered, her steps slow and reluctant. Perhaps she believed there was a way to restore what we once shared, or maybe she simply feared losing the security I offered. However, upon viewing the financial settlement, she relented. I found no shock in her decision to sign. Ultimately, she consistently put herself first. And just like that, the page turned. When I left that marriage, my mind wasn't on her at all. I longed to escape the web of her deceit, the disregard she showed, and her utter indifference towards me as an individual. I decided to let her pursue the life she desires. For a time, it appeared as though she truly did. Initially, she appeared to embrace her new existence. She enjoyed her independence, was unattached, and had a solid financial foundation, courtesy of the settlement. I had put in a great deal of effort to create something meaningful for us, and she received her portion when we parted ways. She began to venture out more frequently, immersing herself in her familiar diversions. Evenings filled with excitement, fresh outfits, and, naturally, intriguing new companions. I heard she even made a light-hearted remark about finally living the life she had always deserved. However, there's an intriguing aspect to individuals like her. They fail to consider what lies beyond the present. She believed that freedom was the ability to act without any repercussions. Life doesn't operate in such a manner. In the end, it finds a way to reach you. One of those liberties ensnared her in a significant manner. She found herself expecting. I learned about it from a shared contact who just couldn't help but share the latest buzz. It seems that it wasn't something that was arranged in advance. It's not something I would anticipate. Who is the father? He disappeared the instant she revealed it to him. Silence, devoid of any calls or messages, simply vanished. She found herself facing it all by herself. Moreover, it continued beyond that point. What about the settlement funds? She consumed it effortlessly, as if it held no weight at all. When the baby arrived, she found herself deep in debt. She needed to part with our old house. At that moment, it was her house. It remained as the final remnant of the life we once knew together. Then there were her companions, or what remained of them. It's evident that individuals like her tend to draw in a similar crowd. Surface level, self-centered, and present only during enjoyable moments. As she began to reach out for assistance, whether it was financial support, childcare, or simply someone to lean on, they gradually faded away, one after another. It seems that even her finest tales failed to captivate them any longer. She obtained what she believed she desired, liberation. However, such freedom carries a cost. She forfeited all that was significant because she never appreciated it to begin with. The reality? I felt no sympathy for her. I wasn't perched in a corner, gleefully anticipating her misfortune, either. I simply felt indifferent. She was a page I had turned. Some individuals believe they are evading a situation, yet they are, in fact, charging headlong into an obstacle. That was indeed her. She sprinted forward, and upon reaching that barrier, she found herself utterly alone, with no one to break her fall. Time had flowed by. My life had progressed not in a grand, theatrical manner, but rather in a calm, consistent fashion. It may not have been flawless, yet it belonged to me. Then one day she discovered me. As I sat at home, nestled by the window with a book in hand, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly. To my surprise, when I swung the door open, there she stood before me. She appeared unchanged, not unappealing, composed, exuding that sense of assurance I once found admirable. Her gaze locked onto mine, unwavering and probing, as if attempting to assess my response. Encountering her once more evoked only a chilling, muted indifference within me. I was completely unaware of how she managed to find me. All I experienced was a profound sense of revulsion. She lingered for a moment, gazing at me as though anticipating the green light to begin her words. I did not provide it. At last, she began to speak, no longer seeking any further validation. Her voice trembled as she spoke. For years, I've been searching for you, she started, her voice trembling and soft. I must express my sincerest apologies to you. I committed an error, a significant error, and I have faced the consequences of it every single day since then. She halted, looking to me for a response, yet I remained silent. I simply reclined against the front door, observing her wriggle uncomfortably. I believed I could possess it all, she went on, her hands shaking as she held them tightly together. I believed I could seek thrill in other places while holding on to you. However, I was mistaken. I failed to appreciate what I possessed until it slipped away. Her words flowed forth, urgent and chaotic. She shared with me the story of her life unraveling, the broken relationships, the financial struggles, the deep sense of isolation. She even confessed that she found herself pregnant and isolated. She gazed at me, tears cascading down her cheeks, and pleaded, "Please, I need you. I have always continued to need you." I leaned in, our gazes intertwining. I aimed to clarify that this wasn't a dialogue. It marked the conclusion of a chapter. You have made your decision, I stated, my tone steady yet resolute. You never felt any attraction towards me, do you recall? If I didn't fit your preferences, then perhaps you should seek out someone who does and see if they're interested in you now. She recoiled as though my words had landed a tangible blow. However, my journey didn't end there. Your regrets are of no concern to me. Your suffering doesn't concern me. That's a weight for you to bear, not for me. Never let me see you again. I took a step back, shut the door, and moved on without a moment's hesitation. I had no use for her explanations, her apologies, or her regret. That chapter of my life had closed, and there was no purpose in revisiting it. As I strolled away, reflections on the person I had evolved into filled my mind. The pain of losing her was profound. It had shattered me in ways I never realized I could be undone. Yet it compelled me to reconstruct. I continue to reconstruct my journey. At times, the most profound offering you can extend to someone who has wronged you is simply to be absent from their life. At times, the most beneficial choice you can make for your own well-being is to step away and leave the past behind you. In losing her, I discovered who I truly am, and that I understood was the only resolution I would ever require. If you found yourself in my position, what actions would you have taken? Take a moment to really consider it. You've just endured a dinner you hoped would rekindle the flame in your marriage, only to hear your wife, the woman you promised to cherish forever, casually mention between sips of wine that you're not her type. She audaciously laughed and detailed how she had been with other men while you were unaware. What actions would you take? Would you remain and battle for someone who fails to appreciate you? Or would you turn your back? Listen, I'm not here to dictate what's right or wrong, but I want to share a lesson I've learned through experience. When you encounter a scenario similar to mine, where an individual demonstrates a lack of respect for you or your affection, it's essential to cease making justifications for their behavior. Do not allow their indifference to diminish your sense of value. The reality is, individuals will engage with you in the manner you permit them to do so. If they can walk all over you once, they'll certainly do it again, and it only escalates with time. Parting ways is never simple, I understand that. It hurts deeply. It's chaotic. Indeed, it can feel quite isolating initially. However, it's essential to consider the future implications. Perhaps you feel apprehensive about what lies ahead, fearful of beginning anew, on solitude. However, I must emphasize that solitude can be far more fulfilling than being with someone who leaves you feeling inadequate. And when you ultimately choose to step away from someone who fails to recognize that you have paved the way for something greater, even if that greater thing is simply discovering tranquility within yourself. Thank you for tuning in.